Hello.
Hey,
Howdy.
how are you? So we have mics in the audience for folks to come up to and ask questions of our illustrious panel here. And then we have a few questions that we got online. And so I think we'll hold the online ones for if the energy, if you guys get timid in the room. So that'll be my backstop. But why don't you start us off?
Hello.
It is on.
Yeah. All right. So I know based on your presentation, yesterday, that you work on Active Directory. Obviously, it's, actively developed, but it seems like the focus is less on, when I think about long-term Active Directory, what people are doing with it, it seems like it's mostly hanging out because of legacy things. It's kind of turning into the mainframe. The question is there any reason to believe that you will implement features into it that make it more relevant for new applications and reasons to need to use it? Or should we really just say, you know what, it'll be there, it'll be supported, but over time, we'll probably get rid of it?
I would tend to say, thanks for the question, first of all. I would tend to say it's the latter. It will be around. We are doing work in it. We're investing in security, supportability, cloud growth, right? And so that includes features. Are we going to do every feature that comes in, every DCR request, the design change request for people who don't know what a DCR is? Are we going to do every single one that comes in or even half of them? Probably not. There's going to have to be a lot of value provided in any feature we put into AD at this point. The company direction is still, we want you in the cloud eventually. We just know now that is a long journey, and we're ready to support you through that journey.
Yeah, folks, come up to the mics to ask a question. I was there first.
Right over here.
I was first.
What?
Yeah, I was. I was fighting for my question.
I think Gus. Yeah, all right.
No, because I had a mean one for actually Linda and Cliff. It's like, we're talking always security first, default security, and even Server 2025 when it came out, still had authenticated users in the pre-Windows 2000 compatible access group. Gotta love that name, by the way, right? So, are we gonna rename the group or change the security model?
Taylor, you want to?
Let me ask this question to the rest of the audience. How many of you here have tried to get rid of that group or take the members out of it?
Some.
Maybe about 10 out of
Yeah.
couple.
The others don't
100?
understand what
My
it means.
second question is, how many of you succeeded?
One. Two.
Then you two guys, I guess,
Three.
should help the rest of the people with your experience. That would be the first things that we would like to know. And you're absolutely right, Guido. This group is a very legacy group. Unfortunately, there is a whole ecosystem of applications for the last 20 years that now rely on the permissions that this group has. So any attempts to get rid of it would be a team effort, not just from the development team to remove any code, but actually the application vendors as well to make the changes needed to stop using those permissions. So if we were to try that, it would be a very long road. But it's not on our roadmap right now, but it might be after this conference, because I've spoken to probably 4 people that have come to me with this question. So thank you for bringing it. And I think
Great.
Cliff wants to add something.
I was just going to say that there will be a conversation about that group when we get back. I don't know how that conversation is going to go, but we need to have a conversation about it. Realistically, I think when we talked about it, I kind of look at the removal, like Linda said, it's I wouldn't say it would be as long and painful as like SMB1 removal, which, as you all know, has been going on for
Most of my career.
forever. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't see it being that long of a tail, but I see it being the same kind of process where it's like, okay, at some point we got to do internal apps, and then we got to go to external people that are telling people to use this group and say, okay, why are you doing this? Please stop.
'Cause
Please delegate the rights properly instead of using this really permissive group, right?
yeah. And I mean, even if it didn't exist in the next version, you would still want to install apps in a new forest. And it would be the same old apps that rely on it in the old version. So it's a tricky thing, but I think Cliff and I have discussed that we'll work on putting it on our roadmap and at least making a plan for killing a snake, in my words.
Thanks.
All right. Now, I already took the mic away from you on Skeetus. Yeah, right. Are you just going to keep finding new mics to show up? Okay, here you go.
All right, so we're going to look ahead a little bit. Entra ID, there are the APIs to be able to protect it, and especially around apps, right? And I'm from Cohesity, so that's kind of the focus of, what we do, right? And it's great. We can protect all the apps, but the challenge is that when we go to recover that stuff, we can put the apps back, but the secrets and the certificates and all that, they're not part of that. So we can get you kind of back, but not really home. I have my thoughts, but what are your thoughts?
I think my initial thoughts on that are the recovery of a secret is very different in the sense that that could be used by a malicious actor as well. That being said, I think the use of managed service identities within the Azure context or managed identities in general, I think would be a more robust manner in general, because what it allows me to do is implement the use of that certificate or the managed identity in my application. And then the system or the platform is doing the rotation and the implementation of the permission sets, etc. So that's probably what I would recommend over utilizing secrets in your application. That being said, I'm not from the app team, and so I can go back and see if there's any additional thoughts there on recovery. But in general, I think the recovery of a already used secret probably would not be something we'd support.
Gotcha. And just to be really clear, like, I'm not building the apps. We're the company that would be protecting the thousands or whatever apps that an enterprise has. So then it becomes a kind of a scale issue as far as putting all those things back together, and not our secrets, not our rodeo.
Yep. It's a good scenario. I'll take it back and we'll try to follow up with you. I'll just grab your name after.
Hello. This question, I don't know, maybe I should apologize for it, but and when you create something in Active Directory, an object or whatever, there's a place to document in that. When you go to Entra and you create a group or an application, there is a place for notes. There is a place to put information about why you're creating this. When you go to conditional access, there's no place to do that. You got a name. You can do a ridiculously long name, but that's not helpful. And I'm getting emotional. When you're creating these, I'm getting direction from our security team. They need something or whatever else, and we'll have an incident that has a lot of information in it. We want to be able to point to these things. Okay, why does that conditional access policy exist? And it would be just helpful to have something like that in that interface.
Yes, Alex. Thank you. For those who don't know, Alex used to be my boss at Microsoft and owned this space. So
And we
now have more
conditional access. It's
It's
amusing to be over here like, yeah, Jared, what's up, man?
He's 7 months removed, and so he, well, I'm going to do it because Alex said to. No, I'm joking. Currently, the naming is the only way of accomplishing that today, unfortunately. We'll take it back. It's on our roadmap for sure, but it's not something that we have committed right now.
All right. I'll take that to heart. All right,
Please do.
thanks.
Thank you.
In the meantime, I mean, and I know this isn't satisfying, but I get to say this and not actually receive the rotten fruit now. Customers I've seen, and including Microsoft, like just do look aside essentially in the spreadsheet, right? So you have a short name and then you have a full description document.
The other solution I could think of is in XDR, being able to create a table, Defender XDR, and have a mapping between the CA policies and your own custom field. That could be a way of being able to then report on it, join it with another Custo table, etc.
I was hoping Microsoft would do all the custom.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Would not hold my breath for that one. I have a question. This is kind of a light question on the My Apps functionality within Entra. When it works great, and our customers love it. When it doesn't work, particularly with SP initiated flows or with custom URI redirections, it doesn't work at all. Is that something we can get into the pipeline for support in the future?
If you can approach me afterwards, we can connect and see if there's an open support case on your side. If not, maybe creating one would drive it. I'm not aware of specific issues where the redirects don't work within my apps, but I'd love to connect and make sure that that's not the case.
Okay, thanks.
All right, I've got a fun, snarky one from online. So while somebody else gets up to the mic, looks like David's on the way up to the mic. We'll do a fun, snarky one from online,
as well.
which got 6 uploads, so it was very popular. And I think it's maybe we'll say it's for you, Jared. It's when will Active Directory be renamed to Microsoft Entra Domain Services Local?
Never.
Whoa.
That's an easy way.
Never, please.
I don't believe that would ever be the case. And I'll let my colleagues speak as well. But I think that the way that we have thought about hybrid over the last decade or so at Microsoft, and for reference, I worked in Azure networking on the hybrid side. And so I think for a long time, Microsoft has believed very heavily in the hybrid approach. And I think being at this conference, I think you would all agree with that. I think there are going to be distinct use cases for the foreseeable future for both platforms. And I think that the work that we're doing to make sure that syncability is great, that the SOA changes are great, that in MDI, you still have full visibility into all of your Active Directory. And a lot of the work that they're doing is to enable MDI to be able to have the visibility and to have awareness, et cetera. And so I don't believe that that would be the case. And Cliff, feel free to add.
I agree with that, and would add that if I recall, I believe there was a lot of work done in Azure Local, or maybe when it was HCI, right? Whatever. There was a lot of work done to actually make it AD, on-prem AD agnostic, or at least make elements of it on-prem AD agnostic, like the cluster scenarios. So in my mind, I don't see the app of Active Directory, right? That the role changing names. I just don't think at this point in the time, like it's, we talk about stuff in ROI, like as PMs, right? And like, I just don't see the ROI of changing that name. The change from Azure Active Directory to Entra, the ROI of that makes total sense to me.
I think that the more interesting question that's kind of latent here, though, is one that says, okay, so Entra is a model, right? Like a cloud-based model, but it's not just that it's not AD in the cloud, right? It's a different model. And when we think about like customers who need to be able to run air-gapped or run offline or be able to deal with, for regulatory reasons or for operational crisis reasons, like connectivity outages, something like Azure Edge or, essentially an on-prem like version of Entra. Because you can't really, like in a lot of these scenarios where you're saying, okay, we want you to migrate to cloud, but the reality is you want to migrate to a new model, and for many customers, some of that model is going to have to be on-prem, right? And isolatable, so cloud disconnected. And so I think the more interesting question I got from that was not really like a name change. It was when would we have an on-premable Entra, right?
And I think that's probably something that makes sense to have in the future, if we're expecting Active Directory to get phased out.
Right.
It's
But it won't be
it's a roadmap item that I think we would definitely talk about. I don't think we have any plans to share here on what would be that approach. As of now, Active Directory is the approach for disconnected autocracy scenarios, etc.
All right, let me consult my list. No. So I actually do have a lot of questions, but the one that's on my mind at the moment is around the ways to store custom data in Entra ID. There's 5 different ways, as you guys know about: the extension attributes, directory extensions, custom security attributes, the open extensions, and the schema extensions. And so as far as I can tell, the main purpose behind like open extensions is kind of the cloud version of the MAPI named properties. It is mostly like for people who are extending Outlook resources. Is that Is that what you guys see there?
That's how I
Okay.
generally feel it. Yep.
Okay. And then with schema extensions, what's its main purpose?
I'm not aware of schema extensions in Entra, so I can't speak to that.
Okay.
I think in general, where our investment is in custom security attributes.
Okay.
If you notice that the inbound HR provisioning from IGA or governance, for example, utilizes custom security attributes, I think you'll see more and more feed into that as well.
Come again? That uses custom security attributes? I thought those were using directory extensions.
I'll have to get back on that. I thought the internal implementation was CSAs, but I can check
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
In general, though, that's where our direction is going. You see those for things like apps and targeting for CA, for example. But that's where you'll see more and more with agents as well.
Okay. Because right now, I mean, that's the only way to, you can only apply CSAs to users and service principals. And it's the only way to filter enterprise applications
For
service
targeting.
principals,
Yep.
for conditional access policies.
Yep.
But there's a lot of other places where you can use it, where you can use directory extensions.
Yep.
For example, the dynamic rules for administrative units and groups.
Groups. Yep.
Are CSAs eventually going to be visible there and useful?
I can't comment publicly. I would say a roadmap item is the enhancement of CSAs in general, though.
Okay. In other words, you're thinking about it. Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I have a lovely sort of softball for you. I think it's a softball. There are solutions. I'm not going to name I will. The question, it reads like this. Solutions like Silverfort offer abilities to more granularly control who can authenticate to a domain controller and in what way. Is there anything that Entra is doing, let's call it, and they suggest that you name it, conditional access for AD?
So there was a session yesterday that was done on Entra Private and Entra Internet Access. And one of the capabilities that we talked about was Entra Private Access for domain controllers. And I apologize if I'm getting the public name incorrect. But effectively, that allows us to be able to do a few things. I think the interception of Kerberos is one of the most important ones in that case. And so being able to apply conditional access policies for things like RDP into a domain controller, that's protecting a critical sensitive resource on-prem. I think our ITDR messaging from Microsoft, at least, is we want to ensure that we can protect identity infrastructure no matter where it's deployed. And so being able to have layers of protection when authenticating to a domain controller, authenticating to do SMB, for example, that would be what our approach is. And from there, I can define a conditional access policy, join it with a compliant network, join it with additional conditions, whether or not it's targeting, etc., and then ultimately be able to apply phishing-resistant authentication directly to my domain controller. And so that approach relies on an agent that runs on the domain controller, of course, but that is our current and future approach for how we're thinking about being able to protect on-prem critical resources.
So can I follow up on? Yeah, that was actually my question. So can I maybe follow up, because I don't want to steal your thunder, but
Michael, please.
My question. So I didn't know I wrote Entra, but I meant Active Directory folks, because so that's great for a user persona, non-human identities, as we call service accounts these days. You can't use GSA.
Sure.
So what I'm looking for is there anything in the works to make authentication or authorization in terms of what protocols you can use, how you can authenticate, more granular? Because some things I have to enable or disable domain-wide, or kind of shove a domain controller in a specific site and have apps authenticate there. And then there's certain solutions out there that make it more granular, which help getting rid of all the legacy and just keep it for those few accounts that need it. Hence why. So GSA for users, fine, but from a service account perspective, there is no flexibility whatsoever.
I mean, that's good feedback for us to take back, definitely. I don't think there's no plan that I know of in on-prem AD right now that's not on the roadmap to do anything like that. But yeah, that's good feedback for us to take back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got an interesting suggestion. Sure.
So we talk also a lot about resiliency. Is there any plan to bring Entra local or something like, hey, what's happened if Microsoft is down? And we migrated a lot of apps to Entra. that we have something like a proxy, whatever you want to name it, inside of our own data center that we can, just in case, if MS is down, we can still make some basic authentication against our migrated apps on-prem.
Nothing on the roadmap from the Entra side of it. I know Azure Local does host a local copy of AD specifically, but there's nothing on the Entra side that would cover that today.
All right, so I think we could answer this sort of with GSA again, but I think maybe more interesting to direct to the Active Directory folks. Any plans in the works to make it easier to use passkeys in an Active Directory environment?
We do have the idea of how we want to try to accomplish on-prem MFA on the roadmap. And when I say it's on the roadmap, it's not even an infant, right? Like it's still, we're still figuring out how to do that, right? And speccing it out and seeing what options we have. So I would say more to come in that space. I know passkeys are big new technology. FIDO obviously is huge. I feel like a lot of people that I understand now are using like YubiKey with like smart card as a smart card and that sort of thing. Yeah, I think that's something we're going to be considering as we go through the speccing process, but we're very, very early in that process. And frankly, the release of like GSA or the new Entra stuff sort of put a halt in me for a bit, because I need to like read and understand exactly what capabilities that's bringing for on-prem MFA before I go try to suggest more features for on-prem MFA that compete with that one, right? So that's sort of like, we've had this idea and it's been a top customer ask for, as long as we've been talking to customers about this stuff. We just need to get to it and figure out what we can do, and again, what options are already available in the new Entra solution.
I'll let you go ahead and do yours.
Yeah.
Thanks. If no one else will get up, I'll go again. This time for the AD folks. In an earlier session, George was talking about the delegated managed service accounts and the need for both the domain controller and the application server to be running Windows Server 2025, and the realization that is a huge ask, a huge effort to get there in order to be able to take advantage of DMSAs, the delegated managed service accounts. Is there any hope that you will be able to sneak that functionality into, Windows NT4? No, just kidding. But at least like
Pre-2000?
at least 2019 and above, so that we don't have to upgrade all the application servers right away.
So 2019 is out of mainstream support. We generally don't take design changes to OSs that are out of mainstream support. Okay. So I'm going to say very, very, very unlikely no on 2019. I'm not going to say no permanently, because the decision making, like the approvals, haven't happened yet. There is a plan. It was always a plan to have DMSA available in more than just Server 2025. That was the design. So Server part of the seamless, part of the seamless use of the service account kind of means that if you don't backport it, then you're not getting all of that benefit, and the ROI is not really as big. And it's not, you don't have to do the seamless. You just stand up a standalone DMSA and you're good, right? It's always been the plan.
Okay.
It is not my team's work, so I don't want to speak for that team, but it is. Literally saw an email earlier this week about it. It's in progress, so we'll let you know more when we can.
Excellent. Thank you.
This is another fun one for me to ask about. When is extended auth methods getting out of beta? So the question is, when does EAM
External auth method.
Yeah, external auth methods, which is another fun one to ask about. When
Alex, have you worked on that before? EAM will go GA very soon. That's all I can say publicly. No more commitments, at least here. If you're blocked in any way on EAM, please feel free to reach out afterwards. My email is jared.ross@microsoft. if you are truly blocked on anything. I will say we have a substantial amount of customers utilizing it today, and but that's all I can share at this point. We don't have a definitive date, but we are tracking towards GA.
Yeah. First of all, I just want to remind everyone, this is your chance to ask the questions. Yeah. So if you don't, then others are going to get up and ask questions. I just was thinking, if you had, and this is towards Linda and Cliff, if you had a wish of something that you would want to change in Active Directory and you know, got the approval for the resources and whatnot to actually get that done, what would that be?
I think there's a big desire, and I'm sure everyone in this room agrees, that there's a lot of people that ask us for, hey, when are changes that were made that were security hardenings going to be secure by default? Right? Like, it's always a question. Hey, like it's either when is this getting enforced, or when are you removing the ability to back out, or when are we getting like a SBD, you know, Server 2025 SBD or something, you know, some equivalent, right? And don't put words on my mouth about me saying that that's coming, because it's not. I'm just saying we have these conversations a lot, and I think that would be, if I could throw resources at something, it would be getting that to a place where it could be used, at least to spin up new domains and new forests, if not in existing. The existing thing is very hard, because, you know, we don't want to reach into your environment or your customer's environment and break things. Even if it's in the name of security, breaking things is a critical outage that costs upwards of 7 to 8 figures sometimes, depending on the company. We don't want to do that. It is our goal not to break people, right? But if I had unlimited everything and got my wish, it would probably be to have something like that in place, just to alleviate the concerns of like, oh, I've got to stand up the DC, or I got to stand up the server, and then I got to turn on XYZ policy, and I got to do this and that. Like, it's a pretty commonly requested thing. Otherwise, it's the stuff in my most frequent, my top list of customer asks, which are the on-prem MFA, the improved management, and native backup and restore. Like those are the things that
Too many wishes.
There's way too many
Remember
wishes. I'm doing the Chevy Chase thing, you know, the if I had one wish, you know, but no, if I had all the money and resources and time, we would get all of our top asks done, and make everyone secure.
Linda.
I'd have 2 wishes. My first wish is I'd have telemetry, loads of it. So we can actually have information about which features are being used, what way, and how. And one of the challenges with that is obviously people don't like connecting their DCs to the internet. So getting telemetry has always been pretty much impossible for us. So that would be one wish. And my second wish, to make Guido happy, is to get rid of the pre-2K compatible.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'll take that.
So it's the Hybrid Identity Protection Conference. So at the moment, we have 2 different plates, 2 different products for identity protection. We have MDI on-prem and we have identity protection in cloud. Is there any plan to merge them, have one unified blade to see at one time what's happening in both worlds, to protecting my identities, my attack paths, whatever, which is not Sentinel? So maybe also a guess for a product name, maybe Defender for HIP or something?
So I think one of the things that you've seen a lot over the last year and a half is MDI bringing in a lot more insights and actions from Entra. And that is going to be in reference to, on the action side or response side of the house, things like being able to do revoke, block, disable, reset password. On the insights and data side of it, being able to see policies, as well as on the incident correlation side, being able to take in both insights from identity protection, where all risk information flows from Entra to Defender, and then subsequently the ability for the SOC analyst, etc., to be able to view and take actions, etc. So do I see that they are going to merge? I don't know. I don't have a comment on that. I think that they solve and look at different problem spaces. And I think that both of them are really focused on how do we enable the end-to-end hybrid outcome. And so on the Entra side of it, if it's a hybrid user, we're going to cover those today. And on the Defender side of it, if there's an on-prem only, the alerts are going to cover for those. But the synced scenario does cover the on-prem and cloud.
Yeah, but also having one view over your full
Yeah.
environment would be fantastic.
We don't believe that there is going to ever be one view. We believe that we will see an identity-enabled SOC at some point, and that's going to be where they have more insights, more actions, more tooling, workflows, etc. But the fact is that the Entra side of it, and I showed this in the ITDR session yesterday, folks can take a look at it, but the Entra side is really for defining policies and being able to troubleshoot when things go wrong. That's going to be the identity persona. And the Entra experience there is going to be specific for the identity persona. When I get into the Defender world, that's going to be more where I want to enable the SOC teams, which likely don't have a specific identity SOC, to be able to have those insights. In MDI, if you haven't taken a look at it, I would recommend it. It does cover Entra third-party IDPs like Okta and AD, of course.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll also add that, just a call back to our session as well, that like our team has been working as far as on-prem AD, our team has been working with MDE, MDI, the Defender team in general, right, on increased ability to trace and then report on-prem AD potential hazards, right? DC sync attacks and
Herb
yeah, exactly. LDAP usage in general.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Must be me. Okay. Probably for Jared. A thing I'm curious about is if you guys have thought about on the Entra side, introducing functionality to help customers like manage their estate in terms of like tying resources that are in Entra back into like concepts of business ownership to help enable governance types of scenarios. Like, for example, I've got all these apps. Who do they belong to without necessarily like relying on the owner, which might not necessarily be meaningful, being able to tie that back into people's governance structures. Also encouraging people to create like maps of their infrastructure to help them actually like do that kind of thing. Like, I have all these resources. Who did they belong to? It's a thing that I think a lot of organizations struggle with, is like, what is all my stuff? Where do these things belong to? I see this being like an interesting problem for apps, but like for any kind of non-human identity as well too, like who does this belong to? Why is it here? And having more support in the product to allow people to do that, either with references to like external systems, or maybe even building some stuff that people could actually just use as well too, like an actual feature in the product that's not like app governance. Because I think app governance is actually the MDCA feature is pretty cool, but it doesn't actually solve that problem. It's really good at helping me like see all these apps and know what their risks are, but I don't know who they belong to as a result of that. So anyway, it's a thing that I've wanted for a long time, and I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts about investing in that. It gets a little to David's question about like, where do I stick data in Entra as well too, but this is more of like a macro level solving the business problem type of thing as well. Quick question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
No.
Question quick.
Yeah, there is definitely work going on, I would say, to be able to make the app catalog experience better, including some of these characteristics. I think we'll see more and more of this be especially prevalent in the agentic world, where I may be creating my own personal agent, and that has an identity associated with it. I sure as heck want to make sure that I know that Jared created it and Jared owns the life cycle of it. But Jared doesn't necessarily, Jared being me, doesn't necessarily know how to administer an app within Entra, for example. And so there's definitely thought going on between the business owner and the application owner, because likely the business owner could be different in scope and in usage. Definitely some thoughts, but I don't have any more to share in terms of actual roadmap or timeline items.
Again, I probably know the answer to this, but I thought I'd ask anyways. I don't know how many people have forests going back to 2004, but back at that day, it was, Microsoft, it was the empty root, so we have one forest, two domains. Is there any chance of ever being able to nicely remove a parent domain so we don't just have it sitting out there for nothing?
So just to clarify, you want to remove a parent domain, but you want to leave everything else.
Yes. Yeah, because it's an empty root design. So we have this parent domain that literally has almost nothing in it besides the default stuff. Everything is in our primary domain, which is a child domain. So we have to, it has to live on. So we upgrade it, new servers, etc. But it does nothing for us, And back at the time, I think it's because we didn't have forest trusts. And so, but since we do now, I was wondering, it'd be really, today, my understanding is we have to basically migrate to a whole new forest to fix this or migrate to the other domain. We don't want to do that. So it just goes on and on. So it'd be lovely to have some mechanism to get rid of it.
Thank you. And I do think that actually makes sense, maybe even for the future where people are now going to migrate their stuff into the cloud. Maybe they've done with one domain and they want to get rid of it, but they might still have child domains. And, so I think your ask is actually very interesting. And thank you for that. It's not something I've heard before, but we'll take it back. Unless you've seen that.
I mean, we can
As an
certainly
ask
take it
before?
back. No, I haven't seen it as an ask before, but it makes sense. But yeah, right now you would have to do a full migration of that domain in order to get it into its own, like make it its own parent, right? Or make it the root of a new forest, right? So yeah, there's not a good way to do that right now, but it's a good
idea.
thing that we can think about.
Yeah.
Just a question out of curiosity, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. The entire point of that would just be to get rid of the empty root and just to not have that collateral in your environment anymore to protect and have to worry about. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Okay. Awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it's just persistent forever now. And,
right. It's just more attack vector. Effectively.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Makes perfect sense.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we did.
Yeah.
The forest was the security boundary, and what we thought the domain was.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you've seen a bit of a shift in our strategy there a couple times, right? Because we recommended at one point, we recommended Red Forest or ESAE or whatever you want to call it, right? And now we don't recommend that anymore. Yeah, there are approaches that work for a certain point in time, and then the technology just improves to a point where at some point we decide collectively, like, okay, now's the time to stop having people do this and do this other better thing, or something that we perceive as better anyway. Do this better thing instead, right? And so I think that's kind of where that evolution has gone. Maybe we haven't gone back and said, hey, like, how do we help people get out of these situations? That's a good question. Yeah. How many of you do have?
I bet loads of people have. More people that have the pre-2000 compatible.
Yeah,
Right?
it's about 15 or so. How many of you have a Red Forest, or your customer has a Red Forest or whatever? I know, but me. But okay, cool. So about 5, 6, 7 of you, and I've talked to a few more of you. So okay, that's good info.
Yeah.
So I have an empty root because I actually work with him. If you want to take maybe an idea for a solution, what about a migration tool where you can migrate everything to the root domain and then just get rid of the child?
Do you mean like ADMT, but something that works?
Yeah, but maybe it's it feels like it would.
Yeah, I think he's asking for ADMT that works.
I mean, it feels like it'd be a little bit easier.
As a migrator 1.5 feature.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I couldn't hear the
I was going to
last.
say, it seems like it could be a little bit easier than ADMT since it's part of the same forest, right?
Yeah. No. It's something that we talk about. That's really all I can say at this point. Is it's something we talk about. But Okay. No doubt. I'll put that as a P0 rec for that feature. No, it's a thing we think about. It's a thing customers talk to us about a lot. Yeah, that's all I can say right now.
All right, we got time for one more question, plus this one. I have a really easy one, and then while somebody works up their works up their courage for one last question. The question here is, when will sign-in and audit events be available via the graph for Entra ID free tier tenants?
So if I actually read this question ahead of time, and I followed up with the team so that I made sure I got the right answer. For streaming, this is available today. So if you're doing Event Hub or diagnostic settings, storage accounts, etc., that's available today for all Entra license tiers. And so if you need to move it out there or you want to put it into Sentinel or whatever, that's fully supported today. There are no plans to remove any licensing restrictions for Graph, though.
All right, as we have no
more question. I was just gonna thank you guys.
No, wait, hold on.
And you're still
I got one more.
go on.
I got three. God, man, these are problems. 2.5.
2.2.
All right, 2.5 minutes. Each of you 30 seconds. One piece of sage wisdom or advice for this illustrious group from your perspective. Want to start, Cliff?
Sure. Or Cliff, you want to go first, or I can go first? Sure.
Yeah.
I think everyone who saw my session yesterday and who's ever heard me speak talks about passwords, please move off of passwords, especially if you're utilizing Entra and you are utilizing conditional access and authentication methods. Being able to move off of passwords where 700 million to 1 billion credentials, we process a week of stolen credentials off the dark web, off of first-party threat hunting, etc. Alex knows this platform well. In addition to that, we have 7,000 password sprays per second. We'll report likely a much, much larger number soon, and that is because we're blocking at multiple layers of the stack now. But my recommendation is for anyone who's utilizing Entra today, please look at phishing-resistant authentication. There's a journey that you can go through, whether or not it's through phone sign-in or security keys, Windows Hello for Business, Mac Platform SSO for Mac OS. Lot of really good options. I know this is more than 30 seconds, but please move off of passwords as quickly as possible. And start with MFA. 45% of our users today are utilizing MFA. The rest are not. That number has gone down. 80% of those are privileged and 80% of them are covered. 20% not covered for privileged roles is scary. Thank you.
Mine's going to be very quick. Patch and upgrade your domain controllers, please.
True story. Also, there's a ton of low-hanging fruit in a lot of environments. We've called out a few of those. Machine account quota. If you are not using it, get rid of it, right? I'll add one more thing since Linda took so little time. I'll just add, we had a conversation with some folks here. It was a great conversation. And one thing that came up is just how things work in support and how things work between support and us. And we are working closely with support. In fact, we're both from support. We both have a lot of friends in support. Had a meeting with support on Friday, actually a whole workshop. My point that I'm getting to is, if you have a bug or something you think is a bug and you get a workaround, don't close the case and don't stop troubleshooting unless you are fine with that bug not being fixed. Because if I don't get the data from you, I can't fix the bug unless I can repro internally. And a lot of your bugs, unfortunately, are very hard to repro internally. They just are. The environments are unique. Everyone has a unique snowflake of an environment, right? And so just keep that in mind. Like, if you want bugs fixed in the product, we want to fix them, but we got to have data and we got to have a place in the code to point at and say, like, no, this is where we went wrong. So just help us and we'll help you, and we'll all be happy that all the bugs are fixed, maybe one day.
All right. You want to sing us out?
Perfect. I just want everybody to stay put before we leave this room and go over to Riviera. First of all, big hands for this amazing panel.